Go ahead, Stephanie.
Okay, cool. All right, you guys, welcome. It is April 10th, and we have Kayla Knutson on, newly moved to Sheboygan Falls, and she's been in Mary Kay for 5 years. She's been a director for almost 2 years, and I believe her debut date was close to mine. She'll have to tell me when she gets back on. I debuted on May 1st. I believe it'll be May 1st for her. She lives with her high school sweetheart. His name is Brian. She used to be a student teacher, and I don't remember what college she went to, but she did go to school to be a teacher. I don't know if she ever did a full year before she realized she already did want to do it. She's earned 2 free cars already, and she's been on the National Court of Sales 1 time. She's been a star 20 quarters. She finished Fabulous 50s, and she was the #2 Rookie of the Year last year. And she was the #1 Best All-Around New Director. Yay, Kayla, that's exciting. Her highest check in 1 month, get this, $5,400. That's amazing. Her favorite Mary Kay award or memory is wrapping up qualifications for their Chevy Equinox, which just was not even a year ago, right, Kayla?
Correct, yeah.
And they did work right up until the last minute, and it was really fun to watch you do that, Kayla. That was exciting, because I was like, oh my gosh, here she is. She's like, you're doing big things, and I know you are working on that Cadillac, and you have some really strong consultants in your unit right now. So my team is super excited to hear more from you, and tell us your why and your Mary Kay journey through these 5 years. What day did you debut as a sales director, by the way? Or what month?
March 1st, 2014.
March 1st.
Just over 2 years, yep.
Yay. Yeah. Cool, all right.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I think that is better on your phone. So.
Okay, sounds good. Perfect. Well, thank you guys for being patient with me today. Oh my goodness, I just moved to the booming metropolis of Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin, and so we have like old country internet. So that in the future I have to figure that all out. So hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm just going to hold my phone here and talk to you guys. So how fun that you're able to do this, and that you have such a strong leader who's able to set up awesome calls like this for you guys. So hello, everybody. It's good to be here. And my story starts back in college. I actually started as a college student, and I had never considered anything other than for myself other than being a teacher. My mom has been a teacher for about 35 years at my high school. My dad actually owns his own business. We're from just south of Green Bay, and that's where I grew up. And I saw my mom provide this great lifestyle for us, where she was home with us during the summers, and I thought that was so great. And little did I realize, though, that a lot of that was provided for us because my dad is an entrepreneur. And so I just assumed, I'll be a teacher, and that'll be great, and I'll be able to have these really great summers. And I very quickly realized after starting teaching those are things that I only had because my dad owned his own business and was able to take off and be there for us and work hard when he wanted to, so that he could play with us when he wanted to. So that was such a cool thing. But I actually heard about Mary Kay. It was a facial box entry. So if you guys have facial boxes up, congratulations, because someone like me could be in your facial box at some time. So and that was truly a blessing in my life, and I just think it fell into my lap right at the right time. So I entered for a facial box drawing at the cafe I always went to. I went to UW Whitewater, and I just was excited about a free facial. I loved free stuff because I was in college, and that's honestly the only reason I had this woman come to my house. And she came over and she started telling me about Mary Kay. And I will tell you guys that I never could see myself doing something like Mary Kay for a lot of different reasons. First off, I was super busy. Second of all, I was kind of a proud person, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's never something I would ever consider myself doing, is slinging lipsticks from here and there. And I was like, I know what I want to do. I had a true passion for teaching. So I really did not consider Mary Kay at all before this woman came into my house and started telling me about Mary Kay. And the only thing I really think I heard that was truly that you could make $25 to $100 an hour in Mary Kay. That was the only thing that I heard, because at the time I did not make any money. I actually was in a lot of debt as a college student. I also, the craziest part was that I was driving like an hour and a half every single day from Whitewater to Janesville to go to student teach, and I worked about 50 to 60 hours a week, and I did not get paid for any of that time. So I was driving a lot. I was spending a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of energy to go and work for free. And so I figured, you know what, I could get a part-time job at Walmart and make $8 an hour, or I could do what this lady does, and I can make $25 to $100 an hour and play makeup with people. So that sounded like a lot more fun and a lot more rewarding. And so that is, you guys, that is the totally, it's not romantic story at all about how I got involved with Mary Kay. It was because I needed the money. And so that's how I got started. And really what happened is I fell in love with this company. I fell in love with the people that I get to surround myself with. I found that the people I worked with in the teachers lounge tended to be martyrs, I guess, in some ways. They were working really hard, but they would also complain about working really hard and not taking, I guess, control of their life and not taking control of their choices. And the people I got to spend time with in Mary Kay were just really a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways. They were very understanding and encouraging, and there wasn't a lot of competition going on. It's funny, like teachers don't need to compete with one another, but they definitely do. And so I fell in love with that environment that I got to find myself in Mary Kay, and I really, I think you become like the people you surround yourself with. And I decided that I didn't want to be like the people I worked with in the teachers lounge. I wanted to be like the people that I worked with at Mary Kay. And so when I graduated that May, I decided not to even look for a teaching job and just to do Mary Kay. So that was, you guys, that sounds like the craziest thing ever. When I say that now, I every single time I say it, I'm like, that is kind of crazy that I spent, $40,000 on an education in a degree that I'm technically not using. But it's funny because I just am so grateful that I made that choice, even though it sounds a little crazy and even though it's kind of scary to just decide, oh my gosh, not doing that thing that I worked on for the last 4 years. But I'm so grateful that I did. It was the smartest decision I've ever made in my entire life, the smartest $100 that I scrounged together that I've ever spent in my entire life, because it's built really my ideal life. And in a lot of ways, and the fact that I get to spend time with me a person every day, and the fact that I just got to we just moved to a really great home. You guys, were directly across from the falls in Sheboygan Falls. I'm in my office right now, which is literally 5 times larger than the office I used to work out of. I'm not even kidding. I used to work out of the den of my apartment. So that is really exciting. And I'm directly across from these beautiful waterfalls. I could not have my mind designed a better place for me right now. So I'm so grateful for my business for that. Brian also just switched, my high school sweetheart just switched jobs. He used to work in pharmacy, and he also didn't feel a whole lot of passion for that, and didn't love the people he was surrounding himself with on a daily basis. And so he actually just decided to, I like to pretend I inspired him in some way, but maybe not. He might disagree, but I really think that being around the people in Mary Kay maybe inspired him and made him decide he wanted to be the best version of himself. And he now is a personal trainer. So that's part of the reason we moved out here too, is so he could be bettering himself, bettering other people as well. And so that is, you guys, that's my story. And I did not become a sales director too quickly. It took me about 3 years to become a sales director. But those last 2 years have just flown by. And I know that there are huge things in my unit's future, because really what I'm going to share with you today is all about self-improvement. And it's funny because I don't think that I would have been really honest with myself at the beginning of my Mary Kay career that self-improvement had a big impact on me. I think I would have said that I've always had a lot of confidence. And I think when we think about self-improvement, we tend to think about self-esteem or self-confidence. And I was like, well, I'm confident. Like that didn't in Mary Kay. I've always been a confident person, and that is true to a certain extent. But there's a lot of things that I've worked on, you guys, over the last, even very recently, over the last 6 months, that have really helped to impact my business and are going to bring huge things in our future as a unit. And it's funny. One of my consultants said the other day, I thought this is so perfect, that in Mary Kay we get to be the most whole and true version of ourselves. And how true is that? The most whole and true version of ourselves. And so I think my biggest strength, I'm going to talk a lot about this, but my biggest strength has been the very humility-filled pursuit of being the most whole and true version of myself. I think that has been my biggest strength in this business, has been the ability to bite things off that I maybe didn't want to chew at the time, to just be okay with being messy in the process, because it is not always fun to dig through the things you maybe need to change about yourself, or that's not always a fun process to go through. But I think being willing and being open and being coachable in that way has really helped me in this business and in life, like to a scary degree in life, it's helped me. So I want to talk today about letting go of a lot of different things. There's been a lot of things that I've not necessarily added to my life, but there's been a lot of things that I've let go of that have really helped me to succeed. The first is perfectionism. I also, before I was Mary Kay, never would have told you guys I was a perfectionist because in my mind, perfectionists were people who were like, I don't know, baking beautiful cakes and like very detail oriented and always looked adorable and cared a lot about the way they appeared, and that was just that's never been me. I'm not a detail oriented person. I'm a very task oriented person. I have high D personality, and so that was not something that I saw myself as. It's like, well, I'm definitely not a perfectionist, and that's something that I've realized through my Mary Kay journey, that I really am a perfectionist and a recovering perfectionist. I'll tell you guys a little bit more about that. I also have let go of black and white thinking, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as well. And also letting go of the things that I don't have at the moment. Kind of letting go of my what do I call castles in the sky is what I like to call them. So I think sometimes we are in Mary Kay, we're very big thinkers. I think even when if you guys were all at seminar last year when Sue had me come up to the front and awarded our unit being the #1 best all around new unit, she said Kayla is the biggest thinker, and Cheryl Peterson, my senior, sometimes has to bring her back down to earth. And I will tell you that is Brian's job at our house, is to bring me back down to earth sometimes. And it is now something that I've taken on myself to bring myself back down to earth, and really let go of, I guess, being dissatisfied with life. I always thought that was a great thing, that I was always searching for more, and I always wanted more, and I was always looking for the next thing I could succeed in. It kept me from being content in the moment and being available in the moment to the people I needed to build relationships with in the moment. And I'll tell you guys that life does not happen in the past. It does not happen in the future. It happens in the moment. And so I'm going to talk a lot about that today. But anyway, so I wanted to share with you guys that black and white thinking, just really think about this for a minute. Black and white thinking has fueled my perfectionism over the years. And so if you think about it, heart disease in the United States is the #1 cause of death. True, I think we all know somebody who's suffered from heart disease or died from heart disease. And the #1 cause of heart disease is stress. The #1 cause of stress is black and white thinking. And black and white thinking, if you guys think about it, if you think about someone being right or somebody being wrong, somebody being, if you are right in every situation, like I previously that I was, someone else has to be wrong. And if someone else is wrong, you're not building a relationship. You're not creating that bond with them. And so that's something I want to talk to you guys about today. And I really want you guys to think about perfectionism in your own life, because it maybe is something that you are not admitting to yourself is affecting you. And so, because I think, like I said, I thought about it being like somebody having a beautiful home or like immaculately scrubbed floors and stuff like that. And that was, almost lost you guys there. That was certainly not me. But have any of you ever gone into your office and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got so much work to do. I got to get in my office. And you get into your office and then you see the cobwebs in the corner and you're like, oh my gosh, I better get started on those cobwebs. And those aren't going to clean themselves. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you know what? I have so many files in this drawer that I'm not even using. I should really get rid of some of those. Or, you're like, you know what? There is a Seinfeld marathon on TV, and I would just be devastated if I missed that. Like, I know that this is probably, I can't hear all of you, but I am positive that has happened in some way to all of you. So that is actually a form of perfectionism. It's an all or nothing. It is a black and white thinking, a black and white thought, all or nothing. If I'm not going to go into my office and I'm not going to be able to do all of this work, all of it perfectly, why would I even try and do any of it? So, really? Yes. So that is a huge thing that fueled me, I guess fueled me in the wrong ways before. Have any of you ever felt offended by something that somebody said, or something that they did differently than you, or maybe they've got a different personality type on the DISC scale and they said something or do something in their business or talk to their consultants a different way, or just something that somebody else has done in life that has offended you and you've let it offend you. When you let somebody offend you, that is black and white thinking, because you're believing that the way that you do things is the perfect way. It's the best way. And again, if you just believe that and don't ask questions or get to know the way that somebody else does something, we can't build those relationships. So that's another form of perfectionism. Have you ever thought, oh my gosh, you guys, this is a huge one, especially when it comes to business owners, because business owners, it's different when you go to your job. I know that some of you are maybe really give 110% at your job, but I would imagine that a lot of you are not perfectionists at your job. But it's very easy to become perfectionists in your business because it's a direct reflection of you. You're the business. And so I know that sometimes these things come up a lot more when you own your own business, and that people who are perfectionists tend to own businesses because they like to really work hard and strive for excellence. And I want to be really clear with you guys. There is a very stark difference between perfection and excellence. Like a lot of times we think about those being on a scale and we think about them being like an inch apart. No, perfection is an unattainable thing. Excellence is a very attainable thing when you're working hard and when you're giving it your all, and when you have outcomes in your head that are realistic and that can actually happen. Perfection is not, it's not real. And so I think that's the difference. Is a lot of times we think, oh my gosh, I'm just going to be perfect at this and it's just going to turn out exactly the way I want it to. And perfection is not excellence. So know that you can really give it 110% and you can be the best that you can be. And that is not perfection. It can happen in an imperfect way, but that is you striving for excellence. So just know that too while I'm kind of going through this, that I haven't let go of my ability to, or of my desire for excellence or my strength as a director or anything like that. Like I still work extremely hard, but I let go of the beating myself up about it not turning out exactly the way that I want it to. So I want you guys to think about this too. Have you ever thought, oh my gosh, so this is the thing I think happens a lot for business owners in particular, being perfectionists. Have you ever thought, and you have to really, you don't have nobody's answering this question a lot, but I think this is a good question to ask yourself. I try so much harder than so-and-so. Or she doesn't get here as early as I do. She must not care as much. Or that mom doesn't bring as many cookies to the PTA meetings as I do. Or I don't have children, but I'm just throwing that one out there. Or just anything like that. Have you ever allowed your desired outcome or your thought, your black and white thought for how things should be, have you ever allowed it to create resentment between you and another person? Somebody who wasn't holding themselves to the same standard that you hold yourself to. And I would probably imagine that 100% of the people on this Hangout today could probably answer yes to that. And if you think about it, it sounds really silly. Like it sounds really silly that you would be working with somebody in any capacity and that you would be looking down at them because they're not doing it to the standard that you hold yourself to. And it's also really silly to hold yourself to a standard that is unattainable or to always need to be the best in everything. You don't need to be the best in bringing cookies to the PTA meeting. I assure you that. Thinking about that, and even you guys, the silliest things, even down to like, have you ever wanted to drive up alongside a car on the highway and roll down your window and politely explain the traffic rules? That is something that was, I would be mad when I got to my appointments because I spent time on the highway with people who were not driving right. They were not driving correctly in my mind. So, and I mean, there actually are laws for that. But again, what is it going to help me to go to my next appointment mad because I'm spending too much time focusing on how everybody else is driving? So even things like that. And thinking about, you guys, I sometimes even used to feel like crying when I would get ready for events because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to look as perfect as I want to look. I don't have the right clothes. And that doesn't help anybody either. And so just really thinking about how you can be your best self, but not your perfect self. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that is something that has really been helping me is remembering that imperfect action is always better than perfect inaction. I'm going to say that again. Imperfect action is always better than perfect inaction. So like I don't even have an example for that because it just sounds so silly if you think about it. But yeah, you going into your office and stumbling through 10 phone calls for the 21-day challenge is better than you saying you're going to go into your office and you're going to make 40 phone calls and not making a single one because you can't do it perfectly. because who can do it perfectly? Nobody's can do it perfectly because that's unattainable, like I said. So, and I found that the more that I tried to control my outcomes and the more I tried to control the results, the like more out of control I felt in my business. Does that make sense? So like I literally like I spent so much time thinking about the Cadillac that I'm going to drive, and the Cadillac, and the Cadillac, and the Cadillac, and the Cadillac, and the 100 unit members that I need to gain to get to that point. And I would spend so much time visualizing the outcome, and I think that that's really important to you guys. Like I still have Cadillacs in my office, so it's not like my Cadillac is the new 2017 Cadillac is definitely the desktop on my computer, but I don't become obsessed with that. That's where what I was talking about earlier when I'm talking about the castles in the sky. Castles in the sky are like this perfect thing up here that has a lot of things that need to happen in order to get to it. But if you're constantly thinking about the outcome, you're constantly thinking about directorship, you're constantly thinking about the car that you're going to drive, you're not thinking about, again, the things that are supposed to be happening in the moment. You're instead focusing on that one thing that is not happening quite yet, and you're thinking about maybe your ineptitude or the places where you're lacking rather than the places that you have strength in. And I've been really working, you guys, on working on the things that I actually have control over. So a lot of the things that I don't have control over are like I don't have control over whether a Cadillac gets delivered to my house next week. Like that's like I don't have any control over that. I do have control over how many booking calls I make a day. And I do have control over how many consultants I call for my unit. And I do have control over how many meetings I hold. I now hold 2 meetings. I hold one in Sheboygan Falls and one in Madison. I do have control over, like the things I have control over are the things that I focus on. So I started adding in kind of this, there's a couple of different exercises I've started to add into my life that I really want to share with you guys. The first is an exercise called Control No Control. And this has really helped to relieve stress and a lot of times when I'm feeling crazy or I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, there's just so much to do, I can't do all of it, or feeling like I need to do things perfect or like I'm not going to do them at all. I sit down and I literally write these out. So it's a T chart. I literally just make a T chart, and on one side it says control and on the other side it says no control. And I make a list of whatever I'm stressing out about. So it might be, oh my gosh, Cadillac seems so far away, or oh my goodness, we're getting so close to Unit Club and I want to be in the top 10. Like, can I control how well the other top 10 people do in our national area? No, I can't. Nor am I going to wish ill of other people so that I can be in the top 10. That is not a great, integrity-filled way to get into the top 10. And so those are the things that I sometimes like I get to start, and I am a huge thinker, and so I get really excited about these things, and if I let them drive me too much, I don't do the things that I can control. And so I might make a list, and then literally it might even be like I'm going home for Thanksgiving and my family is crazy. Like I can't control I cannot control my family being crazy or not, or whatever version of themselves they're going to be that day. I have no control over that. I have no control over how many cookies the woman is going to bring to the event down the street. So that kind of thing. So I make a list of that on the left-hand side I make a list of that under the no control side. And then I take a look at that and I kind of work backwards and I figure out, okay, so if I don't have any control over like my Cadillac being delivered next week, how can I control to get to that goal? And I can control the bookings. I can control contacting 2 bubble sheets worth of people a week, which has become my obsession, is contacting 2 bubble sheets worth of people a week. I can't control somebody's desire to become an offspring sales director of mine. Like I can't force anyone to become an offspring sales director, but I can change the number of people that I am interviewing, or I can change the number of people that I'm coaching or that I'm working with, or I can, like I said, change the number of meetings that I'm holding in different cities. I can do all sorts of different things. I can do more things like Stephanie is doing, where you're having your Google Hangouts and you're inspiring different people in your unit. I can just spend more time with people in the moment. And when I start the things that I have control over, I feel more in control, which makes sense, right? It makes sense to do that. And so I'm going to share with you guys another. I get really invested in like the scientific part of your brain because it's really interesting. The things that happen in your brain that you don't necessarily know are happening. And one of them is an amygdala hijack, and this is something that happens quite frequently in everyday society. And I'm going to explain this, and then during our what time? How are we doing on time here? Okay. And then during our question and answer session, you guys can maybe ask some more questions about that. But it's called an amygdala hijack. And the amygdala is this tiny little like almond-sized portion of your brain. And it's very like deep down in this cord back here, like almost connecting to your spine. And it is a very ancient part of your brain. It's a very strange part of your brain because it actually fuels the part of your brain that is very animalistic. It's weird. So basically, okay, so like thousands of years ago, we were cavemen and women, and we had to survive things like saber-toothed tigers and other random stuff that I don't even know. We had to like outrun cheetahs. We had to do a lot of things that we do not have to do in 21st century United States of America. And so that was a really great thing for us to have because it really, I guess, fueled our like flight or fright or flight, you know what I'm trying to say. And it would either allow us to hide in time to escape some sort of predator, or it would allow us to run in time to escape some sort of predator and basically just save our lives. So obviously a really important part of our brain to have thousands of years ago, not a very important part of our brain to have now, because what happens is things end up creating this like fright or flight in our bodies, and what it does is it actually releases a bunch of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and that makes you eat a lot of chips and like eat junk food and do not good things. It actually, you guys, it like stores fat on your body more when cortisol is released. It makes you feel awful. It actually changes your body. Like you get hot. A lot of times people have trouble swallowing. It actually like fuels weird things in your body. You get sweaty. So I don't, if you can think of any examples, like if you ever got really mad about something, or like it sort of fuels in your head the how dare you response. And so this can happen a lot in just everyday life. I think of it happening most often to me, especially when I was a newer consultant, when somebody would cancel an appointment, or would show up at somebody's house and they wouldn't be there, which has only happened to me once or twice, very fortunately. But anytime something like that happens, or like I just had somebody return an entire repair set, and that is like my first thought immediately. I'm like, how dare you? Like, how could you do this to me? And if you think about the origins of that thought, you guys, that's a very selfish thing for me to think. Like, we have 100% satisfaction guarantee. I talked about it at your appointment. I bragged about it at your appointment. And so absolutely you can return all $205 of your product because I told you that you could. And so a lot of times what I ask myself, and this has really helped me to regain a lot of control in my life and in my business, because I find that was my response a lot. I was going like, I don't know if I'm just a very animalistic person or what, but that amygdala hijack was kicking in a lot for me in my business, and it was making me say to other people or in my head, how dare you? And when you do that, like I said, your body changes, and you better believe that the people I'm talking to realized that I was mad at them or like having some sort of like my own little issues going on. And that is, again, not a great way to build strong, lasting relationships with future customers or potential clients or potential recruits or current recruits. Is just, or your family, is not a great way to remain close friends with people or have strong bonds with people. And I would be very interested to hear you guys if this is something that you've ever experienced in your life, or think about it. But every time I ask myself, so this is a little exercise that I do with myself. I talk to myself a lot during the day, so that's maybe something I would say is my strength, is that I kind of have this inner dialogue going on, sometimes out loud even. And so if I find that I'm ever saying, how dare she, or I can't believe it, or if I ever make that noise, I always ask myself, can I determine that this person meant me any sort of harm? which is a really interesting question. So if you ever have felt that way, I stop myself in the moment and I say, okay, so this person who's returning her repair set, did she mean me any harm? No, that sounds like so silly when you say it like that. No, of course she did not mean me any harm. She didn't. She's very sad that she's allergic to the repair set and that she can't use it, and that she found out from her dermatologist she just needs to be like washing her face with water. And I'm sure that she is very upset about that. So when I started thinking about it from that perspective, I could get back into her and stop thinking about myself and really like I said, build a stronger bond with this woman. And it wasn't going, what was I going to do? What would be an alternative reaction? An alternative reaction would be like what, me not returning her phone call to let her return her product? And what sort of benefit would that have toward my business or toward our business in Mary Kay? Or like, I literally can't even think of another response, but like just being mad on the phone with her, like what sort of benefit would that have to my business? Or like that's not very good PR for sure. And then if I sometimes when I ask myself that question, I still want to say yes, this person did mean me harm, which it really is never true. But when you're in that moment, when that part of your brain takes over, it's sometimes hard to let go of that in the moment. And so the second question I always ask myself is, if they did mean me harm, could I prove it in a court of law? Could I prove it in a court of law? And the answer to that question is no. Never. I could never prove in law that this person didn't hold their appointment today to personally harm me. I could never prove that. And so there's just all sorts of little exercises like that that I've kind of added into my day that have helped me to overcome fear, overcome perfection, or not overcome perfection, because like I said, that's not even a real thing anyway, but overcome the desire to be perfect in everything that I do, and then be able to just really let go of there's lots of things that I was doing before that I was not enjoying in the moment then, and I've been able to let go of that discontent, I guess, and really enjoy every single thing that I do in my business. And I can tell you guys a little bit more about that too if you have any questions about that. But it's been a really great process even over the last like the last 6 months. There's been so much growth that has happened in my business, and like I said, it just took me being really humble and going through that process and being willing to change. So that would be, I guess, my greatest strength is just that willingness to change and to become better and to become my best self and to bring other people along in the process. So that's all I have to share today.
Yay, that was awesome, Kayla. Oh my goodness. My brain is still just churning with all this great information. I love your in-depth thinking, and I have never really sat down to think about some of the things you said before. So I really enjoyed hearing all this and how you related it to Mary Kay, because we're all so different, like some of what you're saying, I haven't felt, but what I love why you shared it is because I bet some people on my team have that I hopefully can relate to people better now, because I do like let people just I'm like the opposite of wanting to be perfect all the time, which I know sounds crazy, but I don't but I've never even thought about it. Like I've never even, I'm a good enough person. I'm like way on the other side. So it probably drives people crazy how the opposite I am. You know what I mean? So it was just really cool to hear, and the different ways you coped with it. I think it's just so amazing about you, Kayla, is you are so wise, you are so in depth, so like this great critical thinking, and that you've taken it to the scientific level. I love that, and that's very interesting to me. So I just took a ton of notes. And my favorite quote, because I heard this from someone too, is that imperfect action is always better than perfect inaction, and that will stick with me forever, because I 100% agree that it's better than just attempting to make 10 calls, like you said, is better than saying you're going to do 40 and doing 0. That's amazing. So I'd like to open it up for questions. Could you guys unmute and let Kayla know either something you took away from the call that you really, really enjoyed, or just a question that you wanted to go maybe more in depth on something she talked about. So go ahead and unmute yourselves. Thank you.
I took away the black and white thinking. just starting with small steps rather than with just trying to leap towards the big picture up quickly, rather than taking the little steps towards
Yeah.
that big picture.
Stacy, did you ever feel like you had those castles in the sky, like you're focusing so much on where you want to be and where you're not right now?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm a red jacket and I'm focusing towards the DIQ, and I think my focus more was getting to directorship rather than the steps to get to DIQ.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds good. So thinking about what you can control in that process will make you feel so empowered and so strong. And feeling powerful and strong are going to attract powerful and strong people to you. So really focus on those things that you have control of in the moment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was very impressed also, um, from what I could see. I'm sorry, I was pretty distracted. But the I have been struggling, same with Stacy, same with a lot of people, with the fact that I too am looking all the way to directorship, and I'm not taking the steps necessary um, on a daily basis. Like, this booking challenge is definitely flipping my business upside down, but even last month I wasn't as consistent with it as I wanted to be, meaning I didn't complete the 21-day challenge. I tried, but this month, with more support and like day-to-day checking in, I've been able to be much more consistent with it. And where I would fall off is on the weekends. And so, yeah, just not looking too far into the future, but looking at today, I think is
Mm-hmm.
really the most important thing that I pulled out from it.
Awesome. That's so smart.
Harriet, do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, so I was just making sure nobody else was saying anything, and my phone is like not cooperating so well. And this is the first time I've done the Google Hangout, so I'm like, ah. Well, first of all, Kayla, I was so excited. That's why I like made it a point to make sure I got on tonight. I like procrastinated with getting on the Google Hangouts because I'm like, oh, and I found other things that I thought were better to do until I heard you were coming on. I'm like, I gotta get on. For me, I had a huge turnaround when I started living in the moment because I used to be like that. I focused on the perfectionist side. I've always been, if I'm going to do it, it's all in, or, go big, go home. It's always been that way for me. And when I stopped doing that, I said, I'm just going to fit it in where I can get it in. And on Thursday, I would have no plan. All I knew is I had 6 hours before I had to go to the studio. That's all I knew. I had no idea what I'm going to do, and I still don't every Thursday. And it really works to an extent. I don't even think long term anymore. I think literally today and maybe a week in advance.
Mm-hmm.
To get me to just keep moving forward. And I try not to think so much about like the steps to get to where I want to be as I think of just keep moving. So like the
Okay.
21-day challenge was a fantastic way to do that too, and that really did help because I said, well, I don't have leads, so I'm going to go to the mall and I'm going to talk to people because I have nobody else to call right now. And
Mm-hmm.
I just found a way, and I took my kids to do it, and they had a blast. They met more women than I did, so it was great.
Awesome. Well, it's amazing when you have that goal in mind. I'm not saying don't have an end goal. Like, I think everybody needs an end goal. Everybody needs something that's going to fuel their fire. But having those steps, like kind of working backwards, basically. So you take what you want and really put it into mathematical terms. How many times do we hear that this business is not magical, it's mathematical? And so looking at, like I said, the math behind the numbers behind what you need to do to accomplish where you want to be helps you to not just feel like oh my gosh, I'm not in my Cadillac yet, or I'm not at directorship yet, or oh, I'm such a failure because I'm not there yet. It's easier then to just look at the numbers and understand that if you just do the numbers over and over again, and you allow yourself to do what you can on a daily basis, that it's going to happen. So, and I believe that's going to happen for you, Harriet. So thanks for jumping on today.
Oh, thank you.
Katie or Bon, are you guys on still?
I I guess what I got most out of it is I'm very much like you. I resonated with a lot of what you said because I always feel like I need to do everything perfectly, and I drive myself crazy doing it. So it's really good to hear how somebody else deals with that and breaks it down and makes it more manageable. Just not even just for Mary Kay, but for life, and applying that to Mary Kay. And I don't know, I thought that was really helpful. So thank you.
You're so welcome. And you guys, I could have come on today and I could have just been like, oh my gosh, we're just doing it. We're having the greatest time. Here are all my strengths. But I wanted to come on. I wanted to be real with you guys. And like to be thinking back about it, that's probably what I would have done even a year ago. I would have come on and I would have written everything up word for word that I wanted to share with you guys so that I would have seemed perfect. And I don't think that that serves anybody in this business, because then you wouldn't have had as much to relate to, and you wouldn't have seen me as being a real person. And I don't think that would have helped anybody, myself included. So thank you for sharing.
I think Bon might still be muted. I'll wait a second for her. But Kayla, I just can't thank you enough for being real with us, because I think it's one of your biggest assets and strengths for how young you are to realize that already, that instead of getting out and going, here's what we're doing and what's all going good, but that, like, yeah, you are real, and that, you know, even as directors, right, we're always, like you said, we're working on always self-improvement, and Mary Kay is a self-improvement course we get paid to take daily. And I love the way I've been watching you over the past few years that I've gotten to know you better as a director, and how much you've grown, and that you're willing to grow, and that you reach out to your mentors when you need to, and you pivot and you change and you're willing, because those of us that aren't aware of what we're working on or know where to go to, we get stuck, right? And I love that you're just not willing to get stuck, that you figure it out. And I think that is such a great asset for you, and obviously now look at you get to impact all these lives by being real. And on Saturday, are you going to be at the quarterly workshop?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So like every girl that's on here is going to be there, and we'll all get to give you a hug in person. But we just love, I love this because we get to see you and relate to you and build relationships with you. I couldn't wait for my team to meet you, because I knew, you know, we'd get to spend time with you and get to know you, and I did too. So Kayla, I didn't know this stuff about you, and I appreciate you being real so that I get to know you better.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you guys, think about the number of lives that you can touch and you can impact if you just allow yourself to be in motion all the time. So I believe in you, and thank you so much for letting me be on. I'm so inspired by being around inspiring women, and I love what you guys are making happen in your unit. And there are huge things to come from you guys. So know that our unit is always keeping an eye out for what you guys are up to, and that we definitely see your whole unit as a role model, and love to just keep track of what you guys are up to. So thank you.
Thanks, Kayla. All right, guys. Have a great night. Thank you guys for being on.
Thanks, Kayla. See you Saturday.